Hello and welcome to the Cash Furnace. My name's Eric Downs, and with my co-host Paul Konzierski, we aim to be your go-to source for daily stock and crypto news. Today is February 5th, and in today
Oh shit.
and see how close he is to being right about Ethereum hitting 2K by Sunday.
Oh, I think we're on pace, baby.
Well, what?
We're almost there. 1763 as of this minute. So, oh God, the
Favors,
internet's so bad.
like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Share with a friend. Do it all. We need your support. And without any further ado, let's get into it.
Absolutely. So, GameStop run. Are we officially done now?
There you go, Paul. You back?
I think I think we might have a problem here with this
Wow,
hotel internet.
great start. Great start. GameStop, is it dead? Is
Is it dead?
GameStop dead? If you haven't, if you're not following it, today was the first day that brokerage restriction, trading restrictions, opened up completely on GameStop and the meme stocks. And what this means basically in prior days this week, brokerages like Robinhood notified their users that they would only be allowed, to trade a finite amount of shares and options of GameStop and the fellow meme stocks. And this actually resulted, regardless of the restriction, resulted in a lot of price movement. Uh, so today, all the restrictions are lifted. You want to buy 50 billion shares of GameStop? Go for it.
Right.
I I'll be honest with you. I went out on a limb. I bought a GameStop call because
Right.
I thought, come on, man. They're gonna go nuts. Yeah, they did go nuts. They did. I think it opened up around like 50 something, quickly shot up to 82. And I was like, okay. Now, everything was settling, every morning it's kind of like an out of the gate situation, it's a lot of mayhem and calamity. So I'm checking my accounts, just seeing how everything's doing. I get to GameStop, see that, and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me jump in on this. I think this could let's see if this can run. Well, after a bunch of halts, uh, every time I would get in, it would halt, and I'd be like, "Oh, come on, dude, please." I'm hoping this halt is just like will result in a bunch of pent up, buying pressure that as soon as it's released,
Right.
it'll continue to rocket upward.
Yep.
Well, that didn't happen. I pretty much bought the top today.
Did you?
I pretty much bought the top. I bought
Oh
in at
God,
like
dude.
70. I bought in at like 76,
Wow.
and I bought an 80 strike call. It wasn't even that crazy, and yeah, it was for 800 bucks. Within 5 seconds, and that's no exaggeration, within 5 seconds, I was 30% down.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, this is going to be a wild ride. This is going to be a bull
Right.
who just had a gallon of Tabasco sauce shot up its ass.
Yep.
Like, it's going to be crazy.
Yep.
Just be patient, dude. Like, you don't want to be that noob trader who just gets scared and sells. Just hold on. Well, I held on for probably about another 30 to 45 minutes. And in that 30 to 45 minutes, I ended up
Oh my God, dude.
I closed out, and to possibly my I luckily I ended the day quite green in despite that. But I the only credit due in this entire trading, series of trades was that if I had held that that option any longer, it would have been worth zero by the end of the day. So I escaped with like, I don't know, man, $150 or something.
Hey man, that's I mean, at least you escaped with something, but I want to know what gave you the sentiment that this was essentially going to go up, because I had a feeling this balloon had deflated a while ago. And I know I said on the podcast before, um, I threw 2.5K in AMC and GME, right? And it was
Hmm.
kind of like I consider it gone money. But I'm not gonna lie, I set a stop loss, so I didn't lose anything. So I actually came out with like uh, a total of 550 instead of actually losing out, right? Um, but I got the sentiment that this momentum was done now. It was like we were talking about. It was all noise now in the chat and in Wall Street Bets at least, and there wasn't any like singular momentum to just go GME, just go AMC. Now we had XRP going. Now we had Dogecoin going. Now we have silver going. And when you split apart the main factors that made this short squeeze possible, right? Which was everybody pooling their money into one resource. Um, when you split that power up, now everything's gone. So what gave you the conviction in the first place to get in this morning?
Well, really, where it came from, to be honest, was Wall Street Bets last night. And you know, I mean, I'm not on Wall Street Bets a lot, to be honest with you. I check it out occasionally, a handful of times a week. Um, but I knew the restrictions were lifting, and I was like, all right, let's see what the idiots are saying. And I was seeing screenshots of people who had put in massive buy orders, buy at market open. And I was like, okay, so there's sentiment out there that people want to buy more than the restriction restricted them to. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Let's bet on that. Let's bet on that. And that's essentially it. That's essentially it. It was people showing screenshots of their unrestricted buy orders at open. And
Wow.
granted, I that as I pressed the buy button for that option, I very much consciously 100% said I might lose $800 today.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is a crazy, and I might lose $800, and I'm okay with that. Um, and like I said, it was fine. I ended the day very green, so it ended up washing. But I
Right.
kind of knew. I knew it was like you. It was throwaway money. But unlike stock, I don't have a stop loss. So that was just it's a mental stop loss, and that is a very hard
Yeah.
stop loss to keep control
Oh,
of.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
But you did get out before zero, so
I
that
got
is a
out
good
before
thing.
zero. I live to trade another day. So, hey man, uh, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You know what I mean? So
That's absolutely.
I want a stupid prize, and that's okay. I'm all right with it. I knew
Hey,
what I was getting into.
right, right. That's the key, right? That's actually a good point to bring out to the listeners. When you have something extremely risky that has you at the edge of your seat, right? Um, you should be okay with having that money be gone,
Yep,
right?
100%,
This should
100%.
not be this should be less than 1% of your portfolio,
Yeah.
right? Not 30% of your portfolio that's going to absolutely
Oh
wreck you,
yeah,
and that money's gone forever, and now you have to make 80% to get that back.
yeah. This shouldn't be the second mortgage on your house. This shouldn't be loans of any type. Like,
I mean, that's a whole nother level. But even if you have a $30,000 portfolio, right? You can't be throwing 10K into a trade because you heard a couple things on Wall Street Bets. Yes, that might have worked for you for GME 3 weeks ago, right? You might have got extremely lucky, but lucky is all it is at that point, right? You have to risk mitigation is the name of the game when it comes to trading.
Yep.
You
It's
have to be able to manage your risk. You have to be able to know when to close something for a loss. And even though we talk about when we have high conviction trades and you and I have closed them like 2 days too early or a week too early, right?
yep.
We still close that because it hit our risk level,
Right.
it hit our risk mitigation, and traditionally that's what kept us profitable in this market.
Yep.
So you will
It
always
kind of
look
reminds
back
me.
you will always look back and with 2020 hindsight, right?
Oh, of
And be
course.
like, oh, what if? What if I kept this? And this is actually our producer, um, Chris, right? There's a very good uh example of this, which is TSNP, right? He has a high conviction penny stock at the time, which you and I bought in at 18 cents, right? And we lost our asses at, but now
I
it's trading at what, $1.30?
I actually made money on that trade, but I got out way too early I didn't understand it. But yes,
I
he had high
Yeah,
conviction in.
and I lost, but the same thing. I sold out because I didn't understand it, and I basically we could have held for incredible profits at this point,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yep.
If we held through, and but sometimes you have to play to your strengths and to your strategy that has worked in the
Yeah.
past.
And I it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings that if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have a plan going in, then you will not know when to get out. And to that point, I will admit, Paul, and I will say proudly that in retrospect, looking at what I did today, I actually wouldn't have done anything different aside from not do the trade.
Right.
But like of all of my monitoring, feelings, decision making that, that I did, I actually stand by it. Even though I lost a shitload of money, like I stand by how I executed that trade. And in retrospect, I wouldn't have done anything different. I knew what I was getting into, and I
Right.
lost.
Right.
So
Yep. And that's the name of the game.
now we'll dovetail that into my next loss of the day. Pinterest. I knew what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I made the call right, dead on,
Yep.
and I still lost money. And you want to know
So,
why?
well, I know why,
You
but
know
let's
why.
let's let's explain to the listeners what
Okay.
happened.
So, listeners, I trade. If we haven't talked about it already, I am predominantly an options trader, and in the world of options, options are really complicated, and there's virtually no explanation for them, no simplified explanation that can truly comprehensively encapsulate what they're all about. But I'll say this: options basically allow you to gamble with the right to buy or sell 100 shares of stock without actually owning the stock. You just own a contract that represents 100 shares, and that contract typically costs a hell of a lot less than the 100 shares themselves. So
Right.
in other words, it's leverage. And um, there's an interesting one of the many interesting components that goes into one of the factors that affects the pricing of an option is referred to as implied volatility, or IV. Now, there are very comprehensive, detailed, complicated ways to explain this, but the easiest way that I think about it is that basically I look at it as supply and demand and inflation. And the higher the IV, implied volatility, is on an option, the more, to me, the more demand there is, because there's a big expected move, because it's expected that that option is going to be profitable.
Right.
So,
And I think we should clarify when IV is high is typically when the stock has been making big moves up and down very recently, right?
right,
If the
yeah,
stock has been relatively stable throughout the past 2, 3 days, IV, implied volatility, the volatility of that stock has dropped.
right. And it is, for what it's worth, IV is also, it does take into account the stock's, historical volatility, but it also factors in again, it's essentially it's implied or forecasted or projected volatility. And so here's I'll frame this up in the following trade. So we talked about Pinterest yesterday, about how it blew through its earnings, and
and how
I
bullish we were.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Everything about their earnings report was excellent. There wasn't a single drawback. There wasn't a caveat. Their guidance didn't ruin anything. Everything was great, and they beat the earnings through the roof. I had picked a couple call out, and I basically nailed the price. Now, not that nailing the price matters, but it happened to land right on my strike. So I did some calculations that night, and I was like, okay, if my calculations are right, when this opens up, I should be up about 125% in the morning. So in comes IV. Now, IV typically inflates options prices as an earnings report is approaching, especially if that earnings report is projected to result in a very big move. So the cost of options gets overinflated above its true value. But sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you know what you're getting into and you can still make money off it. However, what can sometimes result if the move is not big enough, and I will admit, this is the one spot that surprised me because it took a really big move. But if the move isn't as big as the options traders expect, then the implied volatility will immediately shrink or as it's referred to, get crushed. For instance, if you're saying, "Oh, Apple's coming up with their earnings, they're gonna move 50 points after their earnings," and they only move 15 points, then all the volatility that was implied or projected, it's all been how do I say, the true volatility has been revealed, and it was much less than what was projected. So when that happens, the IV, which is normally inflating the price of the option, drastically crushes down, and all that inflation in the option goes away. So when the market opened today, I was like, all right, first things first, let's look at Pinterest because that thing should be hot and I should be able to close it at a nice gain. Well, even though I projected 125% gain, IV Crush reduced my gain to 15%. Beyond that, I held on to my position because I was like, I can do better than that. Plus, remember, their earnings report was amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if Pinterest shot up and then the next day started to run up after a little bit of jostling around in the morning, because that
Right.
totally happens.
Right.
And I was like, okay, maybe it's not my time yet. I'm going to hold on to it. Nope, it dropped. And I could watch it drop. I watched the price of my options drop in multiples of the stock price, which is normal, but way more than it normally did. And that's because IV was gone. That IV that was inflating the price of my option was also deflating right in front of my eyes. And I ended up closing, I don't remember, I have it in my journal, but I ended up closing it for I'm guessing like a 30% loss, dude. On a call that I got dead right. I still
Yep.
took a loss.
That's the really hard part of options trading, and that's why I'm really excited to get into this with you for all our listeners. Me and Eric's first kind of tutorial where he teaches me the basics of options trading is going to happen this Monday. It's it can be extraordinarily profitable,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Where you can turn a tiny account into something significant in an incredibly short amount of time.
Very true.
But that also works against you. And if you don't do the calculations like you did and understand the risk going in, you can absolutely lose all of the money in your account so quickly. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, and to that point, I've done that. This is not my first time trading options.
No.
First time I traded options was in 2015 or was it 17? In 2017, I think. I started with a $5,000 account, and by the end of the year, I had $500 left.
Yep.
Because you know, and this is a message to anyone who thinks options are cool. You're right, they are. But trading stock versus trading options is like riding a motorcycle versus operating an internal combustion engine. They're
Right.
both, they can both propel you forward, but
Hmm.
you know what? That's actually a really bad metaphor because both use an internal combustion engine, don't they?
It's more like either taking the train versus riding a motorcycle.
Yeah,
You could get there extremely fast, right? And you have a lot of benefits to being on two wheels, but you can also fucking die.
exactly. And there's a lot more complication, a lot more control and understanding necessary. And
Right.
I've said this to everyone who I've ever taught to trade options. It's just like, listen, it is way more complicated than you think. When I first started trading options, everyone's like, you got to learn about IV, you got to learn about the Greeks. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I think it's going up. I'll buy calls. And the
Right.
worst thing to ever happen to me was being right because I thought I knew what I was doing. And then
Hmm.
little by little, I started losing and losing and losing. And like I said, my very first year doing it, I lost I blew up almost my entire account. I remember my dude, I still remember back in the day, one of my first trades ever was shorting Facebook. I didn't even understand how a put worked. I just knew you buy it when you think it's going down. And I remember being up $1,500 on a $5,000 account in a matter of 5 minutes. And I was like, my heart was racing.
Yep.
But I did not know how it worked. I did not understand how it worked. All of the nerdy stuff that anyone ever tells you you need to understand with options is a requirement. You have to know this stuff
And
because
it's not even like, okay, you can get by in stocks if you do some homework and you see, I don't know, a trend that people generally don't see, right?
right.
If you just buy that stock, generally you can at least get by and not blow up your account,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You don't necessarily have to study in order to be okay in the stock market, just buying and selling stocks. But in the options market, you quite literally have to sit down and study like it's a class, all of the aspects of options. Otherwise, you get wrecked 100% of the time.
Yep.
Because, like you said, you could be entirely correct about where the stock price is going to go and still get ruined.
Yep.
So I guess that's a good word of warning to everybody who's thinking about options. Do your goddamn homework, study, and look at the tutorial we're gonna have Eric personally putting on for me, because he's gonna teach you the tools of the trade.
Listen, learning options is free. There are
Yep.
hundreds of amazing resources out there to learn options. And you know, there's a very popular and I think very true opinion that says you only truly learn it by doing it because the one thing that training and reading websites and stuff like that and watching videos can't teach you is emotional strength. You only get that when you're trading, but if you understand the mechanics before you step into the door, you will reduce your cost of admission. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You'll be far beyond what everybody else is entering the market doing.
Yep.
And let's be honest, you with options experience, you're just taking money from people without it, right?
That's
When you get a
100%.
profitable trade, that's exactly what's going on.
That is what's happening.
Yep.
I'm stealing from the poor. Well, not necessarily the poor. They don't have to be poor. They just might be dumb.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Might just be some dumb money.
Yep. So,
But wrapping that up, let's get into some crypto news, because I'm excited as hell to talk about Ethereum hitting yet another all-time high.
oh boy, let's hear it.
1763, baby. And it's looking good. And today I just wanted to talk about there is some general news about what let's take it back a little. What generally happens when you see a price rise, right, is everybody tries to look for a why.
Mm,
Why is this going up? And you'll see all sorts of theories pop up, all sorts of ideas. And one of the main ideas going around right now is that CME futures, which is basically the big boys get into futures, right? The smart money gets into futures. And a lot of times when there's bullish sentiment around a stock, or in this case, a crypto, and futures are coming online, um, you'll see even more money pull that Ethereum price upwards, because people are betting for that stock to go up in the future,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Sure.
So there's news going around that that's the reason why Ethereum's hitting an all-time high, and that's basically the best case I'm seeing out there. However, I'm not convinced about it. I think sometimes a stock or a crypto just rises because it's due. It is due time. And we've been talking about, since we started this podcast, at least I've been talking about how undervalued Ethereum is for its use case, for all of the other crypto projects that are built upon its platform. And I think it's just overdue to rise. Sometimes there is no justification other than the fact it's been long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the case here. And I do think, I mean, we saw a hell of a run today, I believe of 10% of from just yesterday's price.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just time, and I still am standing by 2K by Sunday. We got one more day, 2 more days.
2 more days. 2 more days. I don't honestly. I'm looking at the chart right now, and I have to say, there is. It's got some great momentum. It's got. I would not be surprised if you were right, and frankly, I'm rooting for you. So, but we
I'm
have to
rooting
figure.
for me too, but
But the one thing we haven't figured out yet is what the stakes are if you're wrong.
I don't know. Are we gonna make a bet on there? What do I got to do here?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I would. Okay. Ray, I know you're out there.
Yes, he is.
I know you are our most loyal viewer. Let us know what you think in the comments. What Paulie should do, if his Ethereum bet is wrong. Great suggestions include do the next podcast naked. Send me maybe some Dogecoin. I don't know.
Oh,
There are lots of different options here.
okay.
Let us know what you think Paulie should do if his bet is wrong.
And what Eric should do if my bet is right,
Oh
by the way.
shit.
This can't be a one-way train,
I
man.
mean, I think it can be a one-way train. I mean, because I'm on your side. I hope you're right. I want you to be right.
All right.
Anyway, no, that's great. That's great. Paul, you got anything else
But
for us today?
no, no, not much. I do want to add in, if there is a negative side to this run we see, there are some shorts building up, but not to the point where I find it alarming at all. It's just anytime a stock or a crypto runs up, right, there are going to be people who take the other side of the bet. So there are some bets now building on the short side of Ethereum, but still, it's pretty damn dry out there. So I'm still bullish, man. We're gonna hit it.
All right. Only time will tell. We shall see.
So, with that being said, thank you for tuning in. I apologize for having to disable my video because I am on crappy hotel Wi-Fi at the moment, but I'm enjoying a holiday. If you like what you see and you want the news to keep coming, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share this with some friends. Help us run up this YouTube algorithm. We want to hit that 1K mark soon, baby. So until then, we're taking Saturday off per usual. We'll see you on our Sunday drive. And until then, let's make some money.
Yep.
Peace out.
Okay. And we're off.
We're all